guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm finally doing a tutorial many of you guys have been asking for a long time, and we're making overalls! And as you guys probably know, overalls are like my all-time favorite fashion item ever. I love them so much, so I'm really excited to be sharing this with you guys. So I finally went out and got 2.5 yards of this denim fabric, and I got this fabric from Joann's, and it's a good medium weight fabric because the thing with denim is you don't want it to be too light where it's just like super thin, but you also don't want it to be super thick where it's going to be uncomfortable to sew with and also wear. So I'm very happy with this one. It's like the absolute perfect fabric for this. And as I said, I got 2.5 yards, which should be enough to make a long pair of overalls. And we've got a lot of pieces to cut out, so I think we should just go get started. When you're working with denim, it is especially one of those fabrics that's just super satisfying to rip. And I do this to get all the fibers in line, and this will make it so that we're not cutting anything on a weird angle that would make it sit uncomfortably on us. And then I went ahead and patterned all the pieces, marking, measuring everything, and then I cut them all out, and as always, here are all of their measurements. So here is the front piece. You're going to cut 2 of these, and then this little cutout is for the pocket. So you're going to want to make a piece that's very similar to that, but the edges go a little bit further than that cutout. And then you're going to cut out a little pocket lining out of a different fabric. This is just a leftover one I had. And these pieces should overlap around the curve so that we can add in a seam allowance. And then you're going to cut out another pocket lining piece, and this one's going to follow the edges and curve of the front piece, but then you're going to just cut out kind of a square piece that matches the same size as the other pocket piece. And so out of the lining pieces, you're going to cut 2 out of each of these, and then you're also going to cut 2 of these little denim pieces. Next up, this is the back piece, and as you can tell, it's pretty similar to the front one. Here are the front and back panels. This is like the classic overall little shapey part. And then these little pieces on the right are for the button plackets down the side, and the piece on the left is the big front pocket. Here we have the waistband and the strap pieces. They're pretty straightforward. And then the piece on the right here is the back pockets, and the piece on the left is for the belt loops. And as I said, there are a lot of pieces for this project. Sewing time! So the first thing I'm going to work on is finishing up the pocket on the front piece so we can sew it like normally later. So I'm going to take all of the pieces that go to the front pocket, and the first one I'm going to sew is the bigger lining piece. So I'm going to connect this curve to the front piece on the pants, and I'm going to put them pretty side to pretty side, and I'm just going to sew around this curve. And now to make this piece fit around the curve a little bit better, I'm just going to add in some little notches around it right before where the seam is. And now I'm going to take this piece and flip it to the other side. And to get that denim finish, I'm going to top stitch it twice so that we have those 2 parallel lines running around it. And normally while I'm working with denim, I'll top stitch with a gold colored thread, but I think for these ones I just want to use a white. And now I'm going to take this little cutout piece that we made for the top, and I'm going to take one of the smaller lining pieces, and I'm going to put their 2 curves together pretty side to pretty side, and now I'm going to sew all around this curve. Now you should have this cute little piece. So now I'm going to take the pant piece that we sewed and lay this down flat. And I'm going to take this piece that we just sewed and lay it pretty side down on top of it. And with this, it's important that this denim piece completes this side and that it's not all off like this. And now I'm going to line up the little lining pieces. And so right now I'm just going to sew here and here on the pink layer. And now I'm going to put pins down this side, and I'm going to baste down this edge and also down this edge. And now we have a very nice and professional looking pocket with a cute little lining. And now because we've basted this part in, we can treat this pretty much exactly how we do with the back piece. So as I said in my last video, I make everything way too big, just as a measure to make sure I don't make things way too small. So I'm just going to cut down the leg part of this piece a little bit more on both sides. And I'm also going to do that the same exact way on the back ones as well. So now before we sew the pant leg up, we need to add in the button placket first because these are of course overalls. So I'm going to take the 2 bigger placket pieces and I'm going to fold them both in half, pretty side to pretty side, and I'm just going to sew around the side and one of their bottoms. And now when we turn them right side out, we have these 2 little casings. And on the little button placket pieces, I'm just going to serge one of the edges, or you can just do a zigzag stitch on it. Well, I think my serger just gave out on me, so I think I'm going to zigzag it too. So now before we go and sew the back and front pieces together, we have to do the button placket first. So on the front piece, we're just going to take the single placket piece, and I'm going to start it right where the pocket is. And then I'm just going to sew this up. And then on the back piece, I'm just going to measure how far down I put it and start from the same place on the back piece as well. On the back piece though, we've already finished this edge, so I'm just putting it a little bit farther away from the seam to keep it all even. And now I'm going to take the front piece and lay it down flat, folding out this edge, and then I'm going to take the back piece and put it on top. Again, making sure this flap is out and the seam is up. And now I'm going to start sewing right where the pocket stops. And I'm going to make sure that I do this very carefully right next to the seam that we just sewed, making sure all of these edges are up. And then from there, I'm just going to sew straight down. And now just right below where the placket's end, I'm just going to do a notch right next to the seam. And now when you turn it right side out, we have this beautiful button placket. And now down the side that we just sewed, I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch to clean up all the raw edges. And now to get the classic denim look, I'm going to do a top stitch starting from the back button placket. From this edge, I'm just going to sew right down here. And then when I get to about here, I'm going to turn all of the stitches from underneath towards that side. And then I'm just going to stitch all the way down this on the back side. And now we have that oh so snazzy stitching. And now it's time to finally sew up the pant legs. So I'm going to take one of our pieces, I'm just going to fold it so that the pretty sides are together like we had it. We're going to sew from this corner all the way down to the pant leg on both pieces. And again, I'm just going to zigzag down the raw edges to keep them all in place. And now we're going to put the pant legs together. So one of them is turned right side out, and I have one that's inside out, and I'm going to put the one that's right side out inside of the one that's inside out. So I'm going to take this one and put it inside. And now I'm going to put the crotch seams together here. And now I'm just going to line up all of these edges and sew around this seam. And now when you turn the pants right side out, they're actually starting to look like pants. Okay, I think I am liking the fit of the pants. I think they look pretty good. They're very wide, but I'm kind of vibing with it. So I wanted to cuff them like this, and I think it's very cute, and I'm very excited about them. And now it's time to start working on the top of the overall. So I have both of the little pieces that we cut out that look like the front overall shapes, and I'm basically just going to do a little hem on all the sides except for the very bottom one. So next up we want to put the pocket on the front piece, but before we do that, I just want to put a little bit of extra detailing on it. So I'm just folding this piece over like this, and I'm just going to top stitch it down twice just to make it a little bit more exciting. And now I'm also just going to hem the top edge really quick. And I'm going to take this to the iron and fold in all the raw edges, and then I'm going to top stitch it to the front panel. And now to give the pants that classic denim look, we're going to do some top stitching. So I'm going to do 2 parallel lines around the center of the pants, and then I'm also going to do 2 parallel lines curving around to the left of the pants to make it look like a fly, even though these pants don't actually have a fly. Now we're going to take that front panel piece that we just sewed, and we're going to take 2 waistband pieces. We're basically just going to sandwich the panel piece between the 2 waistband pieces, and we're just going to sew right across the bottom. And I went ahead and did the exact same thing on the back piece as well. And now we're going to attach them to the pants. And I just went ahead and basted the top of this little flap in, just so that it'll be a little bit easier when we're sewing these 2 pieces together. So we're going to take the front piece and we're going to attach it to the front of the pants. And we're going to mark the center of the waistband and pin that to the center of the pants. And then we're just going to line everything up and sew the first layer of the waistband to the front piece of the pants. And after you sew it, it should look like this. And now to finish this raw edge over here, I'm going to fold these pieces together so that the waistbands are nice and flat together. And right here from where we stopped sewing, I'm just going to sew straight up so we get a straight edge right here. And now to finish up the back so we can cover up all of this like big mess here, we're going to take the other side of the waistband, we're going to fold it up, and we're going to pin it right along the seam that we just sewed. And then we're going to turn it to the front side, and then as you might have guessed, we're going to top stitch all around it for a little bit more detailing. And the back piece is essentially the same exact deal, except this time instead of folding the flaps back like this, we're going to make this the end of the pants. So normally about now would be when I would add in the buttons down the side, but I actually am going to order some that'll come in tomorrow, so I'm going to hold off doing that right now. And instead we're going to work on the straps. And the first thing I'm going to do on the straps is I'm just going to fold them in half and sew down this edge and across one of the top edges to finish it off. And who would have guessed it, I'm going to be doing some more top stitching down both the sides of the straps. So I'm going to be using these little like overall buckles to finish off the straps. And so they come with these pieces and also little buttons that I'll show you guys how to attach later. So we're going to take the finished edge of our overall and the square piece, and we're going to wrap this around the middle section of this. And then we're going to fold it back and sew it right across here first. And now we're going to take one of these buckles and we're going to slide this through the middle section of this slidey thing and then through the top layer here. And now we're going to take this end, we're going to slide it through here and then through this top one here. Now we can just go ahead and attach this back side to the back panel, and then we'll attach the little buttons a little bit later. And now that we have our super cute little straps, we're going to take our back panel piece, and I'm going to take our straps and lay them down first like this and pin them right here. And I'm going to top stitch these straps right on top of where we already did this previous stitch here. And now I'm going to flip these up the other way and stitch them right down on this top stitch layer. Okay, so the rest of the buttons are on track to come in today, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish up the straps. Any straps that I bought actually come with their own buttons, so I already have these ones on hand, and I'm just going to figure out the placement for them and then install them. So this is what the buttons look like, and they're just these little metal ones, and then they come with these sort of like nails type of deal. So I really need to figure out the placement of these. So I'm just going to kind of put this where I would want the button to be. So I'm thinking maybe right here. So now that I have the placement that I want, I'm going to take one of these little nail pieces and I'm going to just push it through the back piece until it comes forward. And it can be a little bit stubborn. And now I'm going to take the button piece and put it on top. And I am very carefully going to just hammer it together. And you just have to make sure that you get good ones that work well, because I have gotten ones that are kind of cheap and they just mess this part up. But these ones I've had pretty good luck with, so I'm really hoping this works. And I have a classic little denim button! And these straps just circle around and hook underneath it. Next up, I think I'm going to work on the back pockets, and this is pretty much exactly the same process as the front ones. I'm just going to hem the top, do some detailing on them, and then iron it down and stitch it on. Next up, we're going to finish up the belt loops. So I just took our belt loop piece and I serged or zigzagged both of the edges, and then I just folded them in and did a quick little top stitch so that we have our finished belt loop strip. And now I'm just going to cut this into 5 even parts. And now we need to stitch all of these on. So for the belt loops, we're going to have 2 on the front and 3 in the back. So I'm going to start off with the center back one. So I'm just going to line it up in the right place, fold over the top edge, and then stitch back and forth across it a few times to hold it in place. And then I'm going to fold up the other edge a little bit past the waistband, and I'm just going to do a few more stitches there as well. And then for the rest of the belt loops, we're going to put 2 on either side where the panel starts, and then on the front we're going to put 2 right after the pockets stop. The rest of my buttons just arrived, so I am very happy that we can finally finish up the side of the overalls. And the first part of that is making buttonholes. So on the flap that goes over on the front side, that's where we want to put the buttonholes. So I'm going to put 1 down the waistband, and then I'm going to put 2 down the side. So first I'm just going to mark them all out 1.5 inches apart. And so this is our buttonhole foot. So I'm just going to put one of the buttons inside like this, and then switch it out for my regular foot. And it's super crucial that you pull this little thingy out right here, and then you just put your machine on a buttonhole foot and let it go. And now once you have your buttonhole, you just take your seam ripper and rip the center open. Very carefully so you don't break through it. And now that all of our buttonholes are made, I'm going to take a water-soluble pencil and I'm going to just mark inside of all of the buttonholes where all the buttons should go. And this way we know they're going to line up perfectly. And now I'm just going to install these buttons exactly the same way that we installed the ones on the front. And getting the little nail part through can be really difficult. You just have to mess with it for a while until it can go all the way through, but make sure you don't cut the fabric, because I've done that before and then the fabric kind of stretches and goes around the nail part and then your button will fall off, which is not ideal. And now the last thing to do on our overalls is to finally hem them. So I'm just going to try it on and mark where I like it, and then I'm just going to do a very simple hem all around the bottom. And with that, the overalls are finally done. They turned out so good, you guys. I can't wait to show you guys what they look like. And here are the finished overalls. I really love how these overalls turned out. They're like the perfect overalls that can go from super cottagecore to being a little bit more streetwear, and I just really love like the cool mix that they have. And I was a little unsure about how oversized I was making them at first, but I actually really love it. They like turned out so perfect, you guys. These are exactly what I envisioned. And I like to wear them rolled up, but here's them also rolled down. Like I said, these are a little more oversized, so I kept them on the long side for me. I also really love the detailing of the back pockets and on the front pocket. And as I already said, I really love how they turned out. I really hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. You guys can always tag me on Instagram and share your creations. I always get so excited to see them. And there are new videos on Fridays, so stay tuned. I will see you guys next week. Bye!